rights in education. They are the nation's leading advocacy group for First Amendment rights in education. They've helped tons of university cases from Columbia to Michigan. Basically, anytime you see CNN, when you see one of these university situations with a speech code pop up as controversial, FIRE has their hand in it. They really are probably the strongest and most outspoken national advocacy group. And they've agreed to help Marywood, and they think that Marywood can be a great model for other schools as well, because of what we've accomplished so far in moving towards the free speech approach. Just a quick recap of where we are for those of you who have been in the group. We just got our free speech proposal passed unanimously by the student government for free speech rights for students, which was quite an accomplishment. And from there, it's going to move on to the faculty committees. And if the faculty committees don't act on it, we're going to go right over the hedge and we're going to take it to the Board of Trustees, because we feel very strongly that this is something Marywood needs. Even if there haven't been very many, conspicuous incidents of speech violations in Marywood's history, certainly, if anything, if you look out at the greater United States, there's been a very, very disturbing trend where you have ambiguous speech policies like Marywood's that lead to regrettable censorship. So that said, I'm going to let Luke take over. He's going to kind of give you a broad overview of free speech and why it's important. Be a lot more interesting than my speech here. Luke just graduated from Oregon State University, where he started an independent newspaper, which is something maybe some of you are thinking about here at Marywood if you had some trouble with the Woodward, which is generally good. Sorry, Lauren, but they don't always publish exactly everything you want, and a lot of universities have done independent newspapers that have been quite successful. So he's a great success story about that. Maybe you can ask some questions afterwards. He did an internship with FIRE during 2005 right here in Philadelphia, and now he's come to work for FIRE full-time, helping organize colleges like this and helping them organize their own fights for free speech on campus. So here's Luke.
All right, my name is Luke Sheehan. I'm a program associate at the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, based here in Philadelphia. The title of my speech tonight is The Mansion House of Liberty, the importance of free speech on the college campus. In the middle of the 17th century, the English Parliament sought to place pre-printing restrictions on books in an effort to protect the public against potential corruption by false and offensive ideas. John Milton warned that once the government acquired the power to censor anything, before it even saw the light of day, even with the best of intentions, they would have the power to censor everything. What would be next? Sermons, songs? Rather than utilize government coercion to compel the outward utterance of truth and semblance of virtue, Milton encouraged the leaders of his country to allow citizens to speak and argue free of censorship, to allow truth and its sister virtue to defend themselves on their own merits. He said, quote, "I cannot praise a fugitive and cloistered virtue, unexercised and unbreathed, that never allies out and sees her adversary," end quote. Milton was calling on his country to be a mansion house of liberty, an asylum of freedom, where truth and falsehood would clash in an open battlefield. For, he said, whoever knew truth put to the worse in a free and open encounter. He believed that in an open contest, virtue and truth would win against more folly and error, without the intervention of meddling mandarins and their well-intentioned but misguided restrictions on freedom of expression. If any institution should seek to be Milton's mansion house of liberty, where truth and error, virtue and vice, right and wrong, duel to the death, in an unfettered battle of the values, it is the university. And it is the university, more than any other institution in American society, that trumpets its belief in freedom of expression, diversity, dialogue, tolerance, etc. And ironically, it is the American institution most often guilty of intellectual provincialism and political orthodoxy. In order to protect diversity and promote tolerance, views deemed hostile or offensive to some students and some persuasions, and indeed some administrators, are subjected to censorship under campus speech codes. These rules are discretionary. They are not enforced against offensive speech per se, but rather against unpopular speech, or speech out of favor with those in power. George Orwell foresaw just such tactics in his masterpiece 1984, the perversion of language to serve an ideological purpose and the use of coercion to produce uniformity and loyalty to the new ideals. In order to ensure diversity and tolerance, universities are often willing to censor and silence those who are different or independent. Such a betrayal of liberty poses real dangers to human dignity. That speech codes at public universities still exist is a legal wonder, considering that no less than 6 federal cases nationwide have struck them down as unconstitutional. The U.S. Supreme Court has yet to hear a university speech code case, but the thrust of First Amendment law of the last 40 years leaves virtually no doubt that such codes would be overturned if they reached the court. In Popish versus Board of Curators at the University of Missouri, for example, a 1973 case, the Supreme Court explicitly held that the mere dissemination of ideas, no matter how offensive to good taste, on a state university campus may not be shut off in the name alone of conventions of decency. And in Healy versus James, the Supreme Court ruling from 1972, the court announced that state colleges and universities are not enclaves immune from the sweep of the First Amendment, making clear that the college classroom, with its surrounding environs, is peculiarly the marketplace of ideas. Given how extensive and clear the precedent regarding the unconstitutionality of speech codes is, it is stunning how many public universities still maintain speech codes, including, in some cases, codes identical to those declared unconstitutional at other universities. In Spotlight on Speech Codes 2006, FIRE's latest report on the state of speech codes on America's campuses, which is available on FIRE's website, FIRE reviewed and rated the speech codes at 328 colleges and universities. 229 were given a red light rating, meaning that the institution has at least one policy that both clearly and substantially restricts freedom of speech. 91 were given a yellow light rating, meaning that the institution has some policies that could ban or excessively regulate protected speech, and only 8 were given a green light rating, meaning that only 8 schools out of 328 FIRE has rated have no policies that seriously imperil protected speech. John Stuart Mill argued in his essay on liberty that bans on uncivil, intolerant, and indecent speech will not only be applied by the majority opinion to that of the minority. The standard of civility will be decided by the ruling orthodoxy, and it will be decided to its own advantage. The problem is that human beings are neither infallible nor all-knowing, and thus, even if a minority opinion contains only a kernel of the truth, that truth will be lost if that opinion is silenced. Furthermore, Mill argued, even if the opinion of the censors was the whole truth, if their ideas were not permitted to be vigorously and earnestly contested, we would believe the truth not as a fully understood or internalized idea, but simply as a prejudice, something we believe obstinately without being able to explain why we believe it. Many of you are probably aware of this phenomenon on your campus. If we remain unchallenged in our beliefs and assumptions, then our beliefs become mere formulas, not deep abiding convictions tested by the fire of formidable opposition. As the majority for the Supreme Court wrote in Terminiello versus Chicago, the function of free speech under our system of government is to invite dispute. It may indeed best serve its high purpose when it induces a condition of unrest, creates dissatisfaction with conditions as they are, or even stirs people to anger. As Milton had argued in the 17th century and Mill in the 19th, truth is well served by confrontation with error. This is not to say that free speech is or should be without